We're halfway through the year. We want to make sure we have a great, successful 2022, and we're having data defining how we're going to do that this year. So first we need to go back and remember, what did we decide at the beginning of the year? So let's focus. If you've got a notepad, let's take some notes. But thinking about, how did you define success for 2022, and look at where you are today. And we'll talk about two things. One is, if you are, we have a mix of people on the recording today, the call today. Some of you are Sure Impact adopters, so you already have Sure Impact, and I would expect those of you that are using Sure Impact would already be able to say you have your outcomes data, you have your demographics data, you have your service data, you may even have some quality data. And so for those of you who are Sure Impact partners and adopters, we'll talk about how to take that data and take it to the next level, so you can drive and maximize that information to be more successful and impact centric. For those of you who may be tuning in because impact assessment was something that you are really interested in, we'll talk a little bit more about what data elements you should have, why you need those, how you should use those, and how Sure Impact, we'll talk more about Sure Impact, and how Sure Impact can help you easily automate that information so you can more successfully increase your impact. So what we need to do is first think about, what were our goals we set from 2022, and what's the connection between the services you provide and the outcomes you produce. So hopefully at the beginning of 2022, many of you were on our session or listening to our session. We did it back in the beginning of the year about having the most successful 2022 possible. And we talked about the importance of understanding that theory of change, understanding you set goals related to what you do and the results that you want people to have. So making sure that those were clearly defined. You also want to examine how your work is contributing to those positive changes in the community. So can you look back over your past 6 months data and share and celebrate, what have you done? What movement have you had? What successes have you had? And can you compare that to what you said you wanted to achieve, right? So we want to look at what we defined as success and look at benchmarks of where we are today. Are we on track? Are we off track? Did you establish those key milestones? Are you on track for those milestones? And if you haven't done any of those yet, that's fine. Now is a great time, especially many of you are probably on a state fiscal year. So for some of you, although this might be halfway through the calendar year, we actually might be at the beginning of your new fiscal year. So if we're at the beginning of your new fiscal year, here's a great roadmap for you to define success for your fiscal year 2023. And then what do you want? This is so important, right? We have to keep the end in mind. We must start from where the end in mind is and work backwards. What do you want your annual report to show at the end of 2022? It is not too early to start mapping out what you would love, the story you would love to tell. It's the end of this year. It is not too early to start kind of drafting that report to make sure that you have all the data elements. Now, it doesn't guarantee, for example, if you have a benchmark that 75% of the youth that you serve will increase functioning by the end of 2022. If that's your benchmark, that's awesome that you have set that. And of course, you want to tell that story at the end of the year, but it's okay if you don't hit the benchmark. It's okay if you end up at 68% instead of 75%. You might blow it out of the water. You might be at 89% versus 75%, but it's fine if you don't hit it, because you can, if you have the relationship between what you want to do, the services you provide, and the outcomes, you can make those pivots, you can make those adjustments, you can tell those stories, you can understand what's driving those outcomes. And that's pretty exciting stuff. So think back, how did you define success in these 4 categories in 2022? If you didn't define these yet, if you don't have a concrete theory of change, if you don't understand what are those milestones you must hit to get to those results, then this is a good place to start. It's a good place to pause, start and say, okay, I need to define success first, because it's not until you define what success is, can you look at the data that you've already collected to help you drive your mission forward.